Hey folks, Kiltman here, Kiltman at your services. How are you all? Hope you're all doing very, very well. Now, I know I'm laughing a bit here, but, and I don't even know why, so don't ask me. I don't know. Just want to have fun. Bit of fun. Bit of fun. And a bit of whiskey. That's all we ask, isn't it? Well, I ask for a lot of whiskey. And a whole lot of fun as well. And you should too. So, bravo! Right, folks, the subject of today's video is the third entry in a movie franchise. And this is my favourites in that category of the third entry in a movie franchise. And it could even be the final instalment of a trilogy. It could be. I think in one case it actually is. But you know, you make a movie, it's a mega hit. Oh, what should we do next? The studio, like, well, we made money out of that. Let's do a sequel. Even if the end of the first movie kind of shut the whole story down and you couldn't go any further. Plenty of examples of that. But we'll dig up the villain again and it will bring him back to life and it'll start all over again. And this goes on ad infinitum. And then, of course, it forms a franchise. So your second movie, your sequel, is a big success. So, well, let's just do the same thing over and over again because we've got a built-in audience who want to see these characters, this story, this narrative take place again. Third time lucky, they do it all over again. Now, obviously, I've spoke about sequels and prequels and sidequels and, oh God, reboots, reimaginings. Oh, I've talked about them a lot. And by and large, I despise the idea, especially when someone goes in, who shall remain nameless, who goes into an already much loved but controversial franchise in some cases, and declares right from the word go, oh, I'm rebooting this and I'm going to make it a trilogy, without the first film itself being a success to warrant two further movies. Again, we aren't going to name names here, but yeah, you've got that sort of thing. But I'm looking at movies now, and I've listed a whopping, I think there's 20 of them. I do think there's 20 of them here, where you've had a great success, smash hit first movie, then you've had a sequel, and then they've gone for a third one. And in a lot of cases, they've gone beyond the third as well. But sometimes these third movies are actually brilliant, and they do strike out in new directions and create new scenarios, and they're just a whole lot of fun, or a clever variation on what you've known and loved in the first two. So, or in some cases, they're getting the original movie franchise back on track after a really deliriously daft second entry, which struck off in the wrong direction altogether. So, right, now this is in no order, and I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible, but you know me when I list movies and start going into them. Oh, it goes on. Oh, and I'm playing, well, a very apt one because it's on the list. This is the score for Army of Darkness, the third Evil Dead movie. It's on the list, so big spoilers there, sorry about that. But I would ordinarily do a playlist with little bits from all of the 20 movies there. But you know as well as I do, it's very hard to stick to a playlist and talk about that movie in question, because you'd run over and next thing you're talking about so-and-so and the music it's playing is about 10 movies ahead. So I'm not going to bother with that. If I feel the need to shift musical trajectory, I might launch in and play some stuff from what I'm talking about, but we'll see. In the meantime, let's enjoy and savour Joe LaDuca's score for Army of Darkness, which should have been called The Medieval Dead. I still rue that decision. It's ridiculous. And yeah, before anyone shouts up, Danny Elfman did the main march theme of the Dead. Yes, I know. But the most of the score is Joe LaDuca, who had done the first two Evil Dead movies. So, right. Okay, elephant in the room. Let's get that out of the way first. It's right behind me here. It's Halloween 3. Yeah, and the thing is, regular viewers know I've banged on about Halloween 3 a hell of a lot, so I will condense this. Yeah, Halloween, smash hit, well, let's do a sequel. Carpenter didn't want to do a sequel, so effectively wrote a way out of it. Well, let's have him completely blown up at the end. We're going to kill Loomis, and we're going to make this horrible, horrible sort of horror version of The Empire Strikes Back sibling twist. Not sibling twist. The sibling twist for Star Wars would come in Return of the Jedi, but Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's son. So, but the sibling twist for Halloween 2 was, of course, Laurie is the brother of Michael Myers. The unknown. No, she's not the brother. She's the sister. Let's get that bit right. All right. Well, that would be the version of the film you'd make now, because she'd probably be a transgender. Or he'd be a transgender. Or whatever. See how confusing it gets? Either way, Halloween 2 was meant to... That's it. And Carpenter didn't direct it. I don't want Rick Rosenthal directed it. I want nothing to do with this. I'll write it and I'll kill it off. Because my original idea was to do a Halloween movie, maybe once a year, or maybe every other year, themed around the concept of Halloween night. And it could be set in the past, the future, modern day, whatever. There'd just be a different story each time. Not to do with Michael Myers or the Boogeyman. So, Halloween 3 was born. And originally written by Nigel Neal of Quatermass fame, but Nigel Neal did not like the direction that Carpenter's rewrites were going in, and no, took his name off it. So it wasn't the movie he intended it to be. But Carpenter, who co-wrote the movie, and his longtime collaborator and one of his busy buddies, Tommy Lee Wallace, directs the movie, and it stars Tom Atkins, Stacey Nelkin, and Dan O'Herlihy. And wow, I love this movie. It's not Michael Myers. I don't give a flying toss about anyone out there who goes, well, I don't like it because it's not Michael Myers. It was never meant to be Michael Myers. That's the whole fucking point of it. It wasn't meant to have Michael Myers in it. The big bad marketing mistake that they made is calling it Halloween 3. Its title should have just been Season of the Witch, or Silver Shamrock, or Deadly Masks, something other than Halloween 3. Or you could have Halloween, Season of the Witch. In brackets, no bogeyman here, just androids and deadly masks, which turn your face into a mass eruption of bugs and spiders and all snakes and slithery things and mush. I love the film. Great score by John Carpenter. A great new direction to go in. Of course, it failed dismally. Massively, because everyone expected Michael Myers. They didn't get it, so they stayed away in droves. And the ones that did see it derided it, because they've been led down a false path. It was deceptive. So, it died a death. I think it's magnificent, and it still holds up brilliantly today. It's got sci-fi, it's got the occult, it's got old druidic customs and rituals. It's got a completely mind-bending sort of concept. The greatest trick of all, on the children. And the hills, the hills will run red with the blood of animals and children. Dan O'Herlihy's fantastic in it. Tom Atkins is, well, Tom Atkins. The effects are great, lots of androids, lots of limbs coming off, and of course the facial eruptions when the masks come down at that crucial time when the signal goes out. Be around for the big giveaway at 9. I love it. And it's got far more appreciation over the decades since it came out. And it, as I say, it was directed by Tommy Lee Wallace in 1983. Wonderful Dean Cundy camera work, very atmospheric. The Nigel Neal element is the sci-fi thing combined with the old folkloric beliefs and faith and horror and the devil, which is what Nigel Neal always, in his Quatermass movies, brought into effect as well. The clash of science with faith and legend and myth. Brilliant. And this is what works in Halloween 3. So that's number 1 on my top 20 list of best third movies. See, it's awkward, isn't it? Who comes up with these ideas? That would be me. We're sticking with horror. In fact, a lot of them are horror when it comes down to it. Because horror seems to be the thing that spawns big franchises. A lot of comedies, Porky's, Police Academy, that sort of stuff. Get a lot of that as well. But I don't think there's any comedies here. Well, again, that's in my opinion. Others may do ride and laugh at them, but the next one is Friday the 13th, Part 3, 3D. Directed by Steve Miner in 1982. And I'm not the biggest fan of the overall Jason franchise. They are too samey. I do love Jason. I do love the first film because it isn't Jason doing it. And the big shock is that he comes out the water at the end and drags the final girl down. And then you have the great Friday the 13th Part 2, which I do really enjoy. He's got the sackcloth over his face and just the one eye and all that. And the long straggly hair, and he comes crashing through the window. And, chasing it with a pitchfork. It's great. It's kind of it's more redneck hillbilly deliverance madness than it is stalk and slash. But I love Part 2. But I love Part 3 even more. And for me, it kind of that's the zeitgeist for Jason. Jason is the big hulking. Is it Kane Hodder in that one? Oh, I'm not sure if it's Kane Hodder. Should have written that down in my notes, shouldn't I? Don't think it was Kane Hodder in the third one. And but it's where he gets the hockey mask, and we get to see his face and all that, and his true indestructibility is brought to the fore, and he kills swathes of teens, including the little biker trio, more like, including the really gorgeous fox, who he impales, on the rafters of the barn. One guy gets his face shoved into the power box, supplying electricity to the cabin, Camp Crystal Lake. You get machetes in the face, and you get a spear dart through the eye. You get a head crushed, and the eye pops out. You see, it should be seen in 3D. It is gloriously, deliriously in your face and really overt. Anything that they hold will be passed in front of the camera like that, so it's 3D. That looks really wrong from my perspective. But I think it's great. All the hallmarks and all the things and love about Jason from the later movies. The way he looks, the way he acts, that is all Part 3 did that. And it brought in 3D. Of course, at the time, you had some other third movies, which will be in my other list about the worst third parts in the franchise. And because of the 3D craze, I'll say it right now, one of them would be Jaws 3D, and the other would be Amityville 3D. Naff movies, and just literally coasting on the 3D craze, but also on the fact that their previous movies in the franchise were great big huge successes, and the directors and producers and distributors and studios just wanted more, but they didn't work. But Friday the 13th Part 3 3D is great. It's good fun. You've got Henry Manfredini's score again is wonderful. It's kind of energized. It's a bit more disco style. It's a bit more sort of electro and trance sort of thing. But I love it. It's still got all the stuff going on. And yeah, there's a good range of kills, and it is atmospheric. It's literally just a stalk and slash movie through and through. But it's got more flair and more ingenuity than what would follow for the majority of Friday the 13th romps. So that's in there. Next on the list, it's more horror. Again, there's no best one out of these. I'm just running down the things I wrote in that order. It's Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. Now, this is by Chuck Russell directed it. Wes Craven wrote it. Heather Langenkamp reappears, and so does Robert Englund, obviously as Freddy. You'd have the classic Nightmare on Elm Street, which I revere as one of the greatest modern horror films ever made. It still terrifies the brown stuff out of me at an alarming rate. I saw it opening night. It had a devastating effect upon me, and I've loved it ever since. Friday the 13th Part 2, Freddy's Dead. Is it Freddy's Dead? It is, isn't it? No, it's not. Freddy's Revenge, that's it. It's crap. You got these devil dogs and stuff, and you got the gloved claw, you know, the clawed glove even coming out of some guy's chest, and you're all my children now, you know, and he's on fire and all that. Like, it's crap. It is. It just doesn't know what the hell it's gonna do. The school bus going into literally hell by the looks of things. Nah, it's got its fans, a lot of fans, but I'm not one of them. And really, I was kind of surprised that, oh my God, that film was successful. Every critic mauled it. This is part 2. And yeah, Freddy's Revenge, not Freddy's Dead. That's about part 5 or 6, isn't it? Christ. And what? They're going to do another one. But this one was a return to form with Wes Craven at the helm. Chuck Russell at the helm. And you've got these specially gifted kids who are troubled kids in their home, all plagued by dreams and stuff. And Freddy's invaded this, and Heather Langenkamp, Nancy, comes back, and her hair shot through with white on the, you know, in the sides, that kind of thing that signifies you've been through a trauma. Mad Max has it, his little blonde streak in the side. Ash gets it in Evil Dead. You know, whoa! When the big apple core face demon comes through the door of the cabin, and he's just like, whoa! Fantastic film. And so she's got like these blonde streaks in her hair, and she's an advisor, a consultant, a therapist for these kids. But you know, Freddy now, Robert Englund owns the role in this one. John Saxon reappears as well, like in a bit of a naff sort of twist. But I like the kills in this. They're quite imaginative. The set pieces are quite audacious, and the sense of humour is off the wall. You know, it's just completely the one-liners and the zingers are terrific. There's a few jolts in it. The action is great. The effects are really good. The score is great. And Englund is just having so much fun doing it. John Saxon reappears. You've got, what's his face? The guy from Ghost Story and from Body Double, Craig something or other. And who, I don't think he's the world's greatest actor, but you know, you've got his pathetic line at the end, for the children, and he's putting like holy water on, you know, the grave of Freddy and all that. But you get the backstory of Freddy Krueger, how the nun was locked in there with all these sexually depraved inmates over an entire, you know, holiday season, and she's raped a gazillion times. The bastard son of 1,000 maniacs. Oh my God, it's. I don't rate it anywhere near as much as the first Nightmare on Elm Street, but it is considerably better than what would follow, and it is a punchy, popular, and critically acclaimed entry in the entire franchise. And so for a part 3, it's actually riotously good, and it gets the vibe back and puts everything back on track. It would then build and build with more audacious and crazy set pieces. The kills would be ever more outlandish, and the scenarios ever more ridiculous. But this still kept a semblance of reality, well, to a degree, like the first movie. But you kind of, are we in Dreamworld now or not? And it does it quite cleverly. So, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, Dream Warriors. And we're still with horror. And I've just done a lot of stuff on The Exorcist. The Exorcist Believer. Believe it or not. And I didn't like it at all, did I? No, I did not. And there's another example of that nameless charlatan, Hackmeister, who announces, it's going to be 3 films. You haven't ensured success in your first movie yet, and you're saying it's going to be 3. And of course, we all know what a travesty this first one turned out to be. But way back in the day, William Friedkin's The Exorcist, based on William Peter Blatty's novel, wowed everybody, shocked everybody, repulsed and, you know, upset everybody from every faith and denomination. There's the word for you. Denomination. it's almost got demon in there, hasn't it? Curious, curious. So Exorcist is fantastic. Then, we're going to do another one, obviously. So you get John Boorman's crazy, super hyper surreal take with Exorcist 2, The Heretic, charting what's happening with Linda Blair's Regan in later teens, or young womanhood. And it's not the best movie by a long shot, but I like it in its crazy abandon and just its sheer desire to, like, we're not going to copy the first movie, and you've got to applaud that. I say always, if you're going to do a follow-on, make it different, do something different with it at least. There's a few exceptions. Jaws 2 is one of the greatest sequels ever made. I've really covered that a lot. I love Jaws, it's a masterpiece. Legendary in my mind and in this household. But Jaws 2 is an incredibly worthy movie in its own right, with loads of great scares, telling the same story now, but doing it with a whole new sort of vigour, a different sort of sound. John Williams brought the harps in. There's a lot more underwater stuff taking place, and you move further out to sea, and it becomes a proto-stalker / teens in peril movie. Before that became the vogue, with the likes of Halloween and Friday the 13th ad infinitum. So I love that. Where was I going with this? So Exorcist 3 does something different again. You've got the crazy excesses and unparalleled bizarrity of Exorcist 2. And then you get Exorcist 3. Well, William Peter Blatty, who wrote the book, was like, no, look, I wrote the sequel to this, the official sequel, Legion. So I'm going to direct this movie. I'll do it my way. Now, of course, there's two versions of this movie. The one where you pretty much exorcise the exorcism sequence at the end of the movie, the theatrical cut, which I still like. I know it's heavily tacked on there. Well, we've got to have an exorcism scene. It's an exorcist movie, for God's sake. Well, I don't mind it, because that's the version I kind of, first saw. I like the Legion recut version, where things are slightly quite considerably altered for that final act. But I still think I enjoy, personally, Exorcist 3, the theatrical cut. And, each to their own. But it's a George C. Scott detective movie. It's a police procedural. It has one of the greatest jump scenes, shock scare scenes, ever committed to celluloid. Ever. A crazy decapitation tool. The old biddy spider walking across the ceiling, unnoticed by George C. Scott. The whole thing about, who's doing the killings? Well, it's Legion, because Brad Dourif, the demon, can control anybody in the mental ward in the hospital. Great dialogue, great, slightly unusual pace, big build-ups to kills, lots of suspense and ominous quality to it, and brilliant music, brilliant score, fantastic performances. As I say, the tacked on exorcism finale is a little bit weird, and seeing Jason Miller come back as Damien Carras, who sacrifices himself, of course, to save Regan at the end of The Exorcist. Wonderful to see him again, and there's some interesting effects and visuals in the movie as well. But I love it. I think it's a great film. Whichever version you watch, it's still brilliant, but it still hinges on the police procedural and George C. Scott's performance, which is exemplary. Brad Dourif is amazing as well, as everyone loves Brad Dourif. Exorcist 3, there you go. Oh, this is a complete change of genre. It's Johnny Boy Rambo on the rampage again. Rambo 3, directed by Peter MacDonald in 1987. Let me check that. 88. You'd had First Blood, a rip-roaring success, a cult favourite. Rambo First Blood Part 2, much bigger, enormous success, enormous. And although Peter MacDonald directs this movie officially, it's Stallone who's pulling all the strings, doing everything to get himself on camera more often, ripple some more muscles, get more and more sweaty, and kill more and more Russians. Yeah, we're fighting the Russians again. Afghanistan. Just quickly mention here, Afghanistan has now had about 4, maybe 5 huge earthquakes. It's barely getting reported upon because something else has took over. We've got another bloody war going on, haven't we? Jesus. But back in the day, Rambo, he was living the life, you know, he's fixing things for the monks, the Buddhist monks. And I don't know what you think of this place, but I like it. It's quiet. You know, they let me do my thing, and I do my thing for them. Yeah, I've seen you stick fighting in a warehouse in Bangkok. Yeah, well, I do that for a little extra cash. Yes, I saw you give it to the monks. But Troutman, they know that there's atrocities being taking place in Afghanistan. So who's the one man that can go in and kill an entire army wearing next to nothing and doing in the field self-repair in the most bizarre ways? You know, it's Rambo. So look at these pictures of these kids. This is what the Russians are doing. The poor Afghan people, the brave fighters of the Mujahideen, who would later become the Taliban. Oh, American foreign policy. Oh, God, the wisdom or lack of. But anyway, Troutman goes in because Rambo said, nah, it's not my war anymore. I've done all this shit now. I just want to, sit and, hammer nails into great big cartwheels and stuff like. So, no, you're on your own, mate. So Troutman goes in and Troutman gets captured. And then the CIA, which is the great, I forgot his name now, Baldy, Clarence Bodiger from RoboCop, who is wonderful. I can't believe I forgot his name. But he comes back and says, Rambo, just thought you'd like to know that Troutman's been captured. Ta-ra! Oh, he's being held in this particular Russian stronghold, knowing damn well that Rambo's going to go in there with a blue light. What does it do? Turns blue. And a much bigger knife, and he will take on the might of a vicious Russian fortress with Sector General Zizan and lots of those great big Russian helicopter gunships and exploding arrows, tons of action, bit of horse riding as well, and Rambo, Stallone, leaning down, playing sports with the Afghans. You've got to drag that bull's head around 3 times, then drop it in the circle. But by the way, everyone else is against you, and they're going to try and knock you off the horse and kick your head in. So good luck. And of course, Rambo wins because it's Rambo. He learns the rules in a nanosecond and then defeats everyone and gains their respect. I love Rambo 3. In the UK, it was heavily cut down when it first came out at the cinemas. And being die-hard fans of movies and the genre itself, you could tell. I didn't have to be told by the censor that it had been cut. I could quite clearly see it had been heavily, heavily mauled with censorship. And then when I finally got the American version, way! God, it was great. The stick fight at the start, it's still one of my favourite sequences, and I play it a hell of a lot. Jerry Goldsmith's score is amazing. The fight choreography is amazing. It goes through all the Rocky tropes. And he's getting beaten to a pulp throughout most of the fight, and then suddenly he'll manage to find some inner gusto and fling this other huge hairy, sweaty bastard over his shoulders, and then fucking get in there. And the guy's going, but in the end, he won't kill him. He's there. And his tits are wobbling up and down. And then the moment's gone. Extends his wrist. Come on. And it's 2 brothers in arms. Respect for each other. And then gives the money he's won to the monks. But the action it's a much bloodier movie. It's more violent. You've got people who are being blowtorched, which is pretty nasty. You've got Rambo with the shrapnel through his side. He manages to snap one piece off of it, and then push through. Stallone's really badly emotive face. And then to cauterize the wound, he breaks open a bullet. and gets a flaming stave from the fire in this cave. A flaming stave from the fire in the cave. Hey, you see, all very poetic. And then a great shot. It just ignites on both sides of his midriff. But don't worry, you and me would be in pain and agony for about 6 months after that. But no, he's able to get up, ride a horse, fight, take out helicopters, take out tanks, drive a tank, crash helicopters. He's back on form, killing everybody under the sun. I love Rambo 3. I think it does the thing of like, look, First Blood is a very intimate affair with a little bit of action. It's not the most action-packed of movies. When you go back and look at it again, the jailbreak and the being hunted through the forest and all that, and then taking the posse out. There's your big action sequences. That's the start of the movie. Then afterwards, you got a bit in the cave and leap on the back of a truck, hijack a truck, blow up a few bits of stuff around town, and not really do a great deal. Then have a very emotional confrontation with Troutman, but it's brilliant. It's brilliant. Then obviously they realise, look, we want to see Rambo, muscles, big guns, doing a lot more. So you got First Blood Part 2, which is outstandingly good fun. I love it. It's daft as they come, but it's wonderful. It goes back to Vietnam, Mexico, but it's brilliant. I love First Blood Part 2, and then First Blood's the best. Part 2, next best. Part 3 isn't as good as the first two, but it's still a great third movie. That's why it's here. It's a wonderful entry in a franchise, which still maintains the excitement and the comic book cartoonic uber violence and action set piece spectacle of the second one, but keeping a bit of an edge and a bit of we've got to talk about Afghanistan. Although it's misguided when you look back on it with hindsight, it still was American saber rattling of the highest order. I love it. I think it's great. What's next? Oh, you had Mad Max 79, Mad Max 2 in 8081, and the first one is a great experimental movie, a smash hit around the world, an independent hit, overdubbed of course initially on the American prints and what we got here in the UK as well, and then finally you got the Aussie accents. But big success, which heralded Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior. I've covered these three films a lot already, so I'm not going to spend too much time here. But George Miller, the creator of Mad Max, and Mel Gibson and George Ogilvy, who co-directed Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome with George Miller, created a film which was a hybrid of actually two concepts. One was a potential Mad Max story, and one was like a Lord of the Flies style futuristic drama set after a nuclear war with a tribe of kids who have infighting and then find a way to have a leader and how to form a new society. And then it was the two projects were too unwieldy. So, oh God, what are we going to do? Well, why not we put the kid's story and bring Max into it? Well, how's Max going to get there? Well, let's give him this other story beforehand of Bartertown and Tina Turner's anti-entity. Well, I love this movie. I know it watered the violence down. I know. After going from the really experimental and very dangerous stunts of Mad Max, and the confusion over, well, Jim Goose isn't actually dead, his best friend isn't dead, but we then get told he loses his best friend, he loses his wife and son, but we know that they've lost the kid, but they can save his wife. It is confusing how it's very narratively, weirdly unprofessional, but everyone was an amateur at the time when they made that movie. And it's amazing just how well it stands up. But then with Mad Max 2, strip it down to the basics. He's the man with no name, although his name is Max. And he comes in like Shane, reluctantly to save the good community from the bad bastards who are out there. And the rest is history. Mad Max 2 is a shining example of what can be done on a minimal budget, but with guys and girls who are so committed to make literally grueling vehicular perfection on screen and put their lives on the line to do it. And of course, the hugely charismatic performance of Mel Gibson. It's a wonderful movie. How'd you top that? Because it was full of cartoon violence, comic book, OTT, outrageous action sequences. The entire last 15 minutes is a massive chase, full of carnage, and, you know, mythical heroism. Well, what do? Well, Mad Max is now like a huge cultural phenomenon. Oh, let's try and... But in the future, but we've got to give hope. We've got to give an idea of hope. So, of course, with the kids from the crack in the earth and all that, like, they want the saviour to come back. Captain Walker, who in depictions they've got, has got streaks in his hair, which, of course, we know Max has. Max is now a lot older. And his very long hair in the first half of the movie gets cut short by the kids. But you have Thunderdome. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves. It is fucking awesome. You've got little Angelo Rossito as a master sitting atop Blaster, and who's a big hulking brute with a big steel helmet on, like, and you get disagreements. You know, in the old days there was war. Now we have Bartertown. Now we have Thunderdome, and we sort out our differences on a one-to-one level. And the fight is great. The whole trickery with the whistle, just to try to... Tina Turner, Anti-Entity, wants to win control over Bartertown with the methane dungeons with all the pig shit they've got to shovel down there. Methane comes from pig shit, you know. And there's a load of humour to it, and the violence is, you know, literally watered down. You've still got a great big chase in it with a train, you know, and loads of, well, I wouldn't say recurring characters, but you've got Bruce Spence from Mad Max 2, who's the gyro captain, and he plays another captain with one of those ridiculous sort of amphibious plane things with a son, but he's not the same character. And, you know, but I like the kind of weird connectivity of all the Mad Max movies thus far. They're all different. You can't piece them all together in a proper timeline, because Max should be uber old by now. Certainly by the time of Fury Road, which kind of rewrites a lot of what happened beforehand. But Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome is full of flair, full of action, full of imagination. It looks amazing. Gibson, well, I would say he's having a ball. He didn't have a ball making it. He enjoyed working with Tina Turner, and she certainly enjoyed herself there in her fishnet chainmail. Oh my God. Fantastic. She looks uber amazing in it. You've got Angry Anderson as Iron Bar Bassi, who's the little diminutive warlord bad guy who seems to survive anything throughout it. Like, and you've got it. His final maneuver. He's totally crashed up. Every bone in his body should be broken, except for the bones in that finger when he goes. From inside the wreckage of his buggy. Brilliant stuff. Real good laugh, and just a great fable-like sci-fi fantasy adventure. As I say, it drops down several pegs from the violence and nastiness of Road Warrior, but it still maintains that hyperkinetic momentum, and Max Gibson is still nailing it as Max, but he's got more of a sort of sense of humour to it, which again is not in line with what you've had before. Max the hunter from the first movie, Max the loner from the second, who only discovers finally that he's got semblance of humanity because he's looked after these people, and the feral kids there, you know, and Sand. I did all this for Sand. Oh, I was nothing but a distraction. Oh, I get it, and he understands, and he knows that's what I would have done, you know. Anyway, so Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome is there. And again, we're going to go to a different genre again, but we're meeting Stallone again. It's Rocky 3. Rocky 3. Rocky, the big, unbelievable success. Who's this guy who can't even speak properly? Who's written, produced, directed this movie? What? He's just done Death Race 2000 for Roger Corman. And he's written this about a down on his luck underdog boxer who's going to go against the big league, you know, the champion of the world, Apollo Creed. That's never going to work, is it? Well, of course it worked. It's the classic rags to riches underdog story. That's how it works. Massive, huge success. Oscars for Stallone. Great movie. Rocky 2, the greatest rematch in history. Fabulous sequel, and a worthy sequel. Really, really works because you've got that grudge that Apollo Creed has. You know, you beat me by one. No, this is Rocky 2. But, you know, he still wants to prove that he can beat, you know, Rocky Balboa, this pudgy pugilist. But of course, in Rocky 2, he gets a bit more streamlined, and you get a great fight where, climbing up the ropes, Rocky beats him by 1 second. 1 second, you beat by 1 second. You know, remember, you fight great, but I'm a great fighter. But he will have to train in Rocky 3. His previous rival and nemesis to beat Clubber Lang. Mr. T is Clubber Lang. There's Mohican. And it is as Rocky's like in his fucking flamboyant gym. And he's just like on Punch Bag and all that and Speedball. But every other, like, he's just going for pictures. Tons of girls around him. His hair's all done. Like, he's on the cover of Vogue and all that kind of shit. Like, he's the big man about town. And he's become sort of like, he's far more cerebral, far more articulate. He's had a huge education since Rocky and Rocky 2. Rocky 2, where he's trying to actually make a living doing adverts. You know, in the morning when I splash it on, I smell like a jungle rat. Jungle rat? You know, you can't read. Get me someone who can read. You know, you're a very rude man. You know. But in Rocky 3, he's a different guy altogether. But he's also... Mickey dies. Burgess Meredith dies. Oh, God. Mick. I've just said he's articulate, but my God, the death scene of Mickey. It's hard. It's horrible. I know, it gets me every time. And of course, he loses, you know, because he's just witnessed, you know, he's died, or the big push that Clubber Lang did. And then he loses to Clubber Lang. But then he will be trained up by Apollo Creed to start doing, he can dance and skip and step and like get in time and sing and swim, do butterfly and all that, and swim along the beach, swim through sand, run through sand. God, if you can swim through sand, Jesus, no one can beat him, you know. Well, no one can beat him, that's obvious. But but he'll be trained up by Apollo Creed in one of the greatest montages ever. I mean, it's only bettered by what do we come to? Rocky IV, the Hearts on Fire training sequence is legendary. But Rocky IV, and I love Rocky IV. I really do love Rocky IV. But it is just a big pop video. That's all it is. Rocky III is a great continuation of Rocky's saga and the whole fight game thing. And with another really worthy villain. Plus, oh my God, you've got Thunderlips in there. Hulk Hogan, Thunderlip in the flesh, baby. Look at that. It's the biggest arm in the world. You know. And you've got Rocky going, oh, but I chase you for a bit, and then you chase me. Is that all right? That's not too hard for you. And he's going, picks Rocky up, and Rocky's like, catch me! It is fucking amazing. It's terrifying as well. And like Rocky said to him at the start, like, yeah, you know, after this charity event, you know, after this is over, you can get a Polaroid, you know. And like at the end of it, and you've had Bert, what's his name? Oh God, his little mate, Paulie, smacks a chair over Thunderlips' back, and Thunderlips just gets up there. He goes, you don't sweat me! Paulie, played by Bert, I forgot his bloody name now, was a boxer. He actually was a boxer and did pretty well. So and yet he's just the overweight, you know, the brother-in-law, you know, he's Adrian's brother, and you can't see him being a boxer, but he was. You don't sweat me. And like Thunderlips just grabs him and goes, fuck off like that, and then jumps out the ring and takes on all the security guards, and then finally it all calms down, and like you got poor Balboa just goes like, when did you get so mad in there? Like, that's the name of the game. Well, why you calm down? Didn't we get that Polaroid together? Yeah, sure. Get in here with Thunder. The kids are there as well. Like, they're all there together with Adrian, and he says like, wow, charity really hurts. And like, Thunder Lips just goes, yeah. I love it. Rocky 3 is a tremendous piece of excitement. The fighting is wonderful. The training is excellent, and you got the emotional wallop as well of losing Mickey, and oh god, I love it. Rocky 3, awesome, and of course great score as well. Eye of the Tiger. How can you go wrong with that? Okay, a film I've talked about a lot comes next, and it's not a part 3. It is the third part in a franchise, but it's a franchise that never really knew it was going to be one, and it's Day of the Dead from 1985, directed by, of course, George Romero. And I've talked about it loads on the channel. I love it, love it, love it. Night of the Living Dead, 68, black and white, raw, explicit, graphic, controversial, nihilistic, very bleak, big success. Dawn of the Dead, 77, 78, colourful, gaudy, OTT, epic in scope, tons and tons of gore and violence, hugely controversial, hugely censored in a lot of places, but a classic movie. Again, it's Romero rallying against what he saw as the riotous affliction of consumerism, corporate society, and rampant right-wing bigotry. It's all in there, and it's a wonderful, wonderful movie. Night of the Living Dead is awesome. It spawned a fabulous, even better sequel, which is only a sequel in the fact that it's telling another part of the big story. And Day of the Dead is exactly the same thing. It's not following on from certain characters, but it's taking place again later on after the events of Dawn of the Dead, where the undead are literally, the world has been taken over now, and you've only got little pockets of humanity are left, and even they can't get along. Fabulous score by John Harrison, absolutely excellent performances. Joe Pilato as Captain Rhodes, the vicious dictator that is Captain Rhodes, is outstanding. Howard Sherman as Bub, the zombie that's learning to read and to appreciate music through a Walkman, and knows how to fire a gun as well, and has an empathy with certain people and doesn't want to eat certain people. In fact, he doesn't eat anyone. He eats the slops that Dr. Logan, Richard Liberty, gives him, Dr. Frankenstein as they call him, which is all the dead soldiers from the compound, the underground silo, the bunker. He chops them up and feeds that to his captive pet zombies. And of course, once they realise what he's doing, like Joe Pilato just machine guns Richard Liberty's Logan to bits. And of course, Bub discovers that his master, who he loved, has been killed, he goes on a revenge spree and takes out a couple of the soldiers, but leaves after shooting holes through Captain Rhodes. Rhodes opens the door and all that, the zombie hands come through. Ah! And like Bub's just there for one final shot. He's just like that. And just shoots him there, and like doesn't kill him. And of course, like Rhodes is just like, yeah, but you could have killed me there, but no. Oh, and he gets dragged down and then ripped in half. Choke on him! Choke on him! Marvellous effects by Tom Savini, massively surpassing what he did in Dawn of the Dead. Still some of the grisliest and most creative effects ever. Film looks wonderful, great cinematography, great score, as I say, great performances. Really nihilistic, horrible people who you still love watching on screen. Rhodes and his cohorts are all the nastiest bastards going, but they're great, and you want to see more of them. And that's the clever thing about making villains reprehensible in a movie, and yet you still want to see more of what they do and what they say. And they are really horrible, these guys, and they get their comeuppance all right. Don't you worry about that. Day of the Dead. Absolutely awesome. A great third entry. Of course, the cycle would go on. Like with all of these, the cycle just goes on. And but with maybe lessening effect. This is all about the third movie in a franchise. So let's move on again. Oh, sci-fi. Star Trek 3. Now, you guys all know how much I love Star Trek 2. I talk about it a lot. I play the music from it a lot. James Horner scored it. James Horner scored this as well. Just thinking, we put some of that on. Yeah, let's make a little break. Let's go on to Star Trek 3. I bet you I haven't got it now on this. No, I should have. Come on now. Star Trek 3, the search for Spock. Okay, you know it. You know what I'm going to go on to. Stealing the Enterprise. Star Trek 2, directed by Nicholas Meyer, was outstanding. Ricardo Montalban as Khan. James Horner's score electrifying. Emotion, Spock dies. The whole Genesis project, Genesis planet is created. Nimoy wanted out, and they realised, look, well, but everyone loves Spock. But they gave themselves a get-out clause, didn't they? Because they jettisoned his body at the end. And of course, the space casket lands on the Genesis planet, which of course, Genesis is life from lifelessness. So as Kirk ruminates, maybe I have to come back here sometime because his friend could come back. Now, they set their stall out. Look, we've killed him off and shocked everybody, especially me, because I was absolutely mortified. I still cried my eyes out during that sacrifice that Spock makes. So how do you top that then? Well, you don't. Star Trek 3 is, I love the motion picture, one of the few that does, but it's a vastly different type of movie. It's a heavy sci-fi along the lines of 2001 to a degree. Star Trek 2 is harkening back to the original TV show. It's action, it's adventure, it's a chess game. There's lots of great dialogue and character build. It's wonderful. And Star Trek 3 is more of the same, but a direct continuation on. So Spock is alive, and Spock's mind melded with, Spock's being reborn, and mind melded with McCoy of all people, you green-blooded half-breed, and so he starts acting dead strange, and they realise, look, we're going to have to go back there. But no, they're not allowed to go back there. And by the way, you've got to downplay what happened with Khan and all that sort of stuff. So just keep stum all new crew of the Enterprise. But Kirk and his trusted cohorts will go in and cripple. They cripple the Grissom. No, hang on. Yeah, it's the Grissom. They cripple that. Or does the Grissom get destroyed? The starship. They cripple one of them anyway. And they make their getaway in from like space dock from outside Earth in the Enterprise and speed off to Genesis planet, where already Kirk's son is there, and Saavik is there. But of course, Saavik is not played now by Kirstie Alley, who was in the previous one. It's a woman whose name I've completely forgotten now, but she's playing Saavik, and she's in love with, is it Merritt Buttrick or something like that, who plays David, Kirk's son. And they find the young Spock, because Spock's been reborn again, but because David, who worked on the Genesis project, has done something with different kind of matter, he's made everything speed up. I don't know why he did that. He might explain it in the film, I can't quite remember, but everything speeds up. So Spock's growth rate is huge, and he's going to go through the rigors of puberty, which Saavik's going to try and nurse him through. Oh, how lucky is that? If only when I was going through my early stages of puberty, I had someone who looked like that. Pointy ears, make no difference at all. She's gorgeous. So nurse me through my puberty. Job's a good one. And it's only logical that should have happened. Anyway, you've got Klingons after them in the Bird of Prey, which is cloaking device, the threatening Bird of Prey. And it's Christopher Lloyd playing the lead Klingon. Krug, is it Krug or Krog? Whatever it is like. And and they catch up with them, but in a bit of trickery, they'll beam down to the planet and beam the Klingons aboard the Enterprise, which they've set to self-destruct. So they destroy the Enterprise. You lost Spock in Wrath of Khan. You now genuinely lose the Enterprise. And you see it, a flaming a comet or a shooting star. And what have I done? Says Kirk, done what you had to do. All that kind of moralistic malarkey. And but you got Kirk having a fight with because they killed David. You Klingon bastard, you killed my son. You Klingon bastard, you killed my son. And they have a fucking big fight, and Genesis planet's tearing itself apart. There's lava flows everywhere, fucking volcanoes, lots of miniature trees are falling over. Everything's gone all fiery colours of Dante's Inferno, and Kirk's still there. Everyone's got back. They've now shifted, beamed themselves aboard the bird of prey, and you've got the Klingons hanging on to Kirk's foot, and Kirk's on the edge of a cliff. I have had enough of you. I fucking stamp him in the face. Into the lava you go. He literally was doing what his race is called. He was clinging on. It's a great film. A great score by James Horner, again, which you're hearing. And it's directed by Leonard Nimoy, who came... Well, if you're going to... Look, all right, I'll come back again. But I want to direct it this time. So he fucking directed it. And it's a great third entry. It's massively in cahoots with Wrath of Khan. It's a great sort of follow-on to that. Of course, the two films are vastly different from the motion picture. And then, of course, you get the full-on riotous comedy, fish out of water thing, going back in time for The Voyage Home, which will follow on next, which everyone loves it. And I like it. I don't love it at all. And I barely ever watch it. If I watch Star Trek movies, it's Wrath of Khan, The Search for Spock. That's it. Pretty much, Undiscovered Country, I do love that as well. That's great. But Search for Spock, that's a worthy third entry in a franchise. And of course, this is a franchise which was destined to go on and on and on. They knew they couldn't carry on TV. Oh, but then they did, didn't they? And they still are doing. But they didn't know that at the time. So we're going to boldly go where the TV show's not gone before. We're going to go onto the big screen. And that's what they carried on doing. And they were all successful. So it's great, isn't it? James Horner stuff's great. I've now started playing the music from the films. I'm going to have to carry on doing it, aren't I? I know you want to hear the rest of this, but we've got to move on. Time's of the essence here. Cheers, folks. So our next big movie is... See, I've set myself a task now, haven't I? I'm now going to do this. I think what I'll do... I've got a playlist already set up for this, I do believe. Oh, God. Come on. It's very quiet, this. Oh dear. I've just realised the little playlist I've done for Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King is actually very, very emotional. Oh God. Peter Jackson's magnum opus, masterpiece of fantastical cinema, fabulous and very faithful adaptation of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings. Each film is magnificent. I've said many times, I think my favourite is The Fellowship of the Ring, because it just has more mystery to it and more, I don't know, a deeper sense of beauty and foreboding, whereas Two Towers and Return of the King are far more action orientated and emotional. But Anyway, and Fellowship also feels the most complete. Two Towers is mega awesome. Helm's Deep, Fangorn Forest, it's awesome. And then you get Return of the King. Oh my god. And everything comes to blistering, beautiful, elegiac, action-packed conclusions, multiple conclusions. The film has more finales than A Thing with Many Finales. I couldn't think of an example then. And it is truly, truly heart-rending what all these characters go through, the odyssey they go through. Little hobbits, they just want to drink ale and compose ballads and pick mushrooms and potatoes and just have a wonderful, rambunctious life in the idyllic old Cotswolds. That's what's meant to be, you know, the home counties of England, but filmed in New Zealand, obviously. And they go through the most destructive, psychologically unbearable, physically painful, they could die at any moment, journey. All of them go on this, and they come out changed people at the end. And for some, of course, you know, it's the old wound. It's never properly healed. You know, it is fantastic. The battle scenes are just so huge. The charges, the Ride of the Rohirrim and all that, like a Red Dawn, King Theoden, fighting the Nazgul, the final battle with Gollum, the final sacrifice. Again, we've had the Klingons clinging on above a lava pit, and then we got Frodo and Sam hanging on at the edge of the world. Everything, Mount Doom has erupted, they've destroyed the ring, but they're trapped on just one bit of rock. But the eagles come in, don't they? You know those great big things which can fly right across Middle Earth in the blink of an eye, which they could have given the ring to at the start. So do us a favour, Gwihillim or whatever you're called. Take this ring to Big Mountain with fiery pit. Fly over top, drop in. Whew, job done, and there'll be some little potato snacks for you when you get back. But no, you've got to inflict this entire painful, horrific odyssey on these little lovely people. Oh God. It does bring everything to a fabulous conclusion. It wraps everything up. People meet people have died, people survive, and they're changed. And, you know, a ranger becomes the king of men. And an elf princess gives up her eternal life to live alongside a mortal. A mortal who lives a very long life anyway, but... And then you got going on the ships to sail across the Grey Havens. Oh. Unbelievable. Into the West. I'm going to do it now. I'm going to do it. I'm going to upset myself immensely. The effects are wonderful. The music, Howard Shore's score, is just magnificent. The acting is, again, brilliant. The play on the jokes, you know tossing, the dwarf and don't tell the elf, and all the things that Legolas can do, and just endless acrobatics. He takes down a Mumakil, and then slides down its trunk at the end after killing about 100, bastards on top this thing, and Gimli just goes like, still only counts as one, because they're doing a running count of other people that they killed in battle. Annie Lennox here. How many have we done now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, we're halfway through, folks. When I said I wouldn't keep you long on this one. It's funny, a lot of movies hate having a song at the end of it during the end credits. But for these movies, they worked exceptionally well, and this especially, where you got the sort of the papyrus, the parchment paper, and the characters would be drawn upon them with the character's name and the actor's name, and it was a great way of doing the end credits. And with this playing, listen how her voice goes. God. Return of the King, very deservedly, one of the greatest third parts ever in a franchise. And of course, unless you talk about the TV series which is set before, and The Hobbit, which was set before, this is the finale. I think it's the first finale we've had in a franchise. Yeah. There's 10 more. Do you know what I'm going to do? This is part 1. I'll do the other 10 in the next video. Because I've gone on for longer than I thought I was going to do. But I think this is a lovely place to end this half. And you can always reply and say, well, these are my favourite third entries in a film franchise. And you never know, some of them will probably be what's coming up. There's 10 more. And then I'll do the worst, well, the ones I don't like anyway, or the ones I think are the worst. And I'll give my reasons for it. But here we go again. So fitting, isn't it? After all you've been through, alongside some of the most perfect character renditions and performances you're ever going to get. They all redo Lord of the Rings. You've got a previous version, Ralph Bakshi's animated version, with a great voice cast as well. Rotoscope animation. Love the movie. But this is... You watch Lord of the Rings, you go to this, and good luck to anyone that wants to take this on board, redo any of this. Right, folks. Although part of me is now itching to go on with the rest of it, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. There's 10 more to come. There we go. Let's end cheerfully. I think this would be the one to end it on. The wizard is never late. Frodo Baggins. The wizard always arrives exactly the time he intends to arrive. I'm sure I've got that wrong. And they wanted Sean Connery for this, you know. Can you imagine if he'd done it? None shall pass. Sorry, I'm just sitting here drinking whiskey and whittering on. We've done, that's part 1. That's the first 10. Let's run through them again. Halloween 3. Friday the 13th, part 3, 3D. Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. Exorcist 3. There's a definite theme running through there. Rambo 3. Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Rocky 3. Day of the Dead. Star Trek 3. Return of the King. That's 10 magnificent part 3s in a movie franchise. And we've got some great ones coming up as well. Some great ones, trust me. And I think they're a bit more diverse as well. So, folks, I have been always shall be killed, man. Please, in the meantime, and as ever, let's discuss part 3s of movie franchises in between time. Please keep it Celtic, keep it Celtic. Be happy, be yourselves. But if by being yourselves puts you in risk, just be careful as well. But I'm going to see you all later for some more part 3s.